welcome to this deep dive. You've shared some really fascinating material with us, focused on how we navigate, well, life's challenges, right? And specifically, the role our ego plays.
Exactly. In both the good times and maybe especially when things go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got these reflections here on handling setbacks, how we see ourselves, and, the constant work it takes to stay grounded.
Grounded, self-aware, yeah.
So our mission today is really to unpack all this, to pull out the key insights that hopefully can help listeners wherever they are on their own journey.
And one thing that jumps out right away, I think, is this idea of an internal battle.
Oh, yeah, the Martin Luther King Jr. quote about the Civil War going on within all of our lives.
That's the one. It perfectly captures that constant tension inside us.
And the material suggests our ego just pours fuel on that fire, doesn't it? It makes it even harder.
It really can. And let's face it, looking squarely at your ego, it's not comfortable.
No, definitely not. The source even says it's, tough work, something most people would rather avoid, maybe.
Avoid completely, yeah. So I think just engaging with this topic, like our listeners are doing now, that's actually a pretty big first step.
That's a great point. Really significant step.
It really is. And when we talk about ego here, we just mean that bit of us that, craves validation, is terrified of failing and can sometimes, twist how we see things, ourselves, the world around us.
Right.
And building on that idea of effort, there's that great metaphor from Danielle Bolelli.
Oh, the sweeping the floor one.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something you do once and you're done.
Right. Just because you dealt with your ego yesterday.
Doesn't mean it's gone today.
Yeah.
It's like dust, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just keeps settling.
Yeah. Good analogy.
And if you let it pile up, ignore it.
Then you got a real mess on your hands down the line.
Precisely. So a key takeaway there is managing ego isn't a quick fix. It's a continuous practice, like sweeping every day.
That image really sticks with you, the persistence of it. And speaking of messes or maybe serious problems, that anecdote about Dov Charney, wow.
Yeah, quite the cautionary tale.
His reaction to getting fired, seeing it as like death, and thinking he was completely blameless.
It's a vivid picture, isn't it, of what an unchecked ego can do when things fall apart.
It really is. It almost makes you pause and think, there but for the grace of God go I. Because that vulnerability, that sting when things go wrong, I think we can all relate to that on some level.
Absolutely. We're all susceptible. And this story shows the extreme end of that ego-driven reaction.
And what's interesting is how the source contrasts that with the author's own experience.
Right, the book writing process.
Yeah, like 4 rejected proposals, loads of drafts. That could easily trigger the same kind of ego meltdown, right?
Oh, easily. Giving up, blaming publishers, digging your heels in.
Totally. But instead, there's this therapeutic device, as they call it, tearing up the drafts.
And feeding them to a worm compost is quite something.
It is. It's such a tangible image of, letting go, connecting destruction to renewal somehow.
It really externalizes that frustration, I think. Reframes it. It's not the end, just part of the process.
Makes you think about times maybe a project didn't work out and it felt like the absolute end of everything.
Exactly, which connects to that other point in the source about not seeing our lives as these grand monuments.
Yeah, that really resonated. This idea that we put immense pressure on ourselves, like we have to build this huge, perfect thing, or we're failures.
And that pressure can just become too much. People break under it or get broken by it.
And it's not saying ambition is bad, right? That's important.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Ambitious goals are fine, even great. It's when the ego gets tangled up in it.
It corrupts the whole thing, starts whispering those, damaging stories in your ear.
Yeah, not just when we fail, but sometimes even when we succeed, which leads to the consequences.
Right, and the consequences aren't always like some big dramatic downfall, no karmic lightning bolt.
No, often much subtler, like the comparison to the end of that book, What Makes Sammy Run.
Oh, yeah, that part was powerful. The Hollywood mogul guy, he has all the outward success, right? Money, power, fame.
Everything you'd think someone would want.
But underneath, the narrator realizes he's got this inner, well, the source calls it a disease.
The disease of loneliness, fear, insecurity, always looking over his shoulder, scared someone's catching up.
It really makes you question what success even means, doesn't it? If that's the internal price.
Definitely. And it taps into that fear, maybe, that we could end up like that too.
Yeah.
Outwardly successful, but inwardly Empty.
Yeah, empty or just miserable. A kind of failure hidden inside success.
That's a good way to put it. A failure hidden inside success.
What's wild is my own experience reading that specific passage years ago. I was like 19.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I got it, Intellectually, I understood the warning.
Mm-hmm.
But then years later, I found myself getting pretty close to falling into that exact same trap. It's hard.
That really shows the gap, doesn't it? Between knowing something in your head and truly living it, internalizing it.
Absolutely. Reading about ego is one thing. Actually managing it day to day is a whole different beast. Requires constant awareness.
It does, and it reminds me of that Bismarck quote the source mentions.
About learning from experience.
Yeah, learning from your own mistakes versus learning from other people's mistakes. The source says this book aimed for the second one.
Learning from others.
But ended up involving a, quote, painful amount of the first one, the author's own experiences.
Right. And wasn't there a Plutarch quote, too, about gaining knowledge through, actually going through stuff?
Exactly. Sometimes you just have to navigate the storm yourself to really understand the lesson, it seems.
That seems that way.
But the central message, I think, that the source really hammers home is that while chasing professional success is, perfectly fine, admirable even,
Right.
becoming a better person, happier, more balanced, humbler, more selfless, often paves the way to that success, not the other way around.
So it's not just about being good, it's practical.
Totally practical. Refining your thoughts, your impulses,
Yeah.
that actually helps you navigate ambition more effectively. It's a skill.
So, okay, we've gone through all this. We've unpacked these ideas about ego, success, failure. For the listener who's reached this point, what now?
Well, that's the key question, isn't it? What remains are the choices, their choices.
How do you actively use this information? It's not just theory.
Exactly. It's about making conscious decisions as you move forward, thinking about how this applies to your own life, setbacks you've had.
And even successes, maybe, when ego might have crept in.
For sure. Because life really is that cycle, isn't it? Aspiration, then maybe success, then maybe failure, then aspiration again.
And the ego's right there, every step of the way.
Constantly. Which brings us back to that sweep the floor idea.
Every minute of every day.
It's that continuous practice, not a destination you reach and say, okay, done with ego now.
Doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Nope. It's ongoing work.
So maybe a final thought for people to chew on, something to take away and reflect on personally.
Okay.
Thinking about those three phases you mentioned, aspiration, success, failure, in your own life right now, which one feels like the biggest ego battleground for you?
Ooh, interesting question.
Where does managing the ego feel trickiest? And maybe, just maybe, start thinking about why that might be. What are the underlying reasons for that particular struggle?